Welcome to the Mostro Podcast, where music, technology, and community all meet. I'm your host, Kim Bingham. Today's guest is Emma Miller, an independent artist from Scotland who's redefining fan connection through music NFTs and grassroots community building. Let's dive in. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming on to the Mostro Podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. And so I know we're talking right now, it's nearly the end of summer, and you just had a gig this week.
I did, yeah.
And how was it?
It was good. It was, I'm fully independent, so I'm doing everything on my own and constantly switching hats of promoter, marketer, obviously on the day, like performer, but then you're also balanced, I'm about to go on a ramble. But my ticket person didn't turn up. So I was there like doing the tickets at the front of house. So suddenly you're like rushing. So the gig was good, but you've got that moment afterwards of it's hard work being independent, and it's very rewarding. But I think building the team out and finding your people is definitely a must to ease the burden when you're independent and still try and like treat it like a business and have your trusted folk around you. So I'm glad I did it, and it was a headline show, and I booked the venue, did everything myself. I had a nice turnout and like nice feedback, but there's just always these little kinks and zigzags that you navigate, and it's just part of the job. So it was good. Yeah. Part of the journey of becoming a music superstar, I guess, is the part of there we go. Everything. Yeah, but DIY doesn't mean do it alone, right? So building a team, I know, is really an important thing. But bravo and congratulations. Congratulations on that. Yeah. And so you're originally from Scotland. Are you based still in Scotland, or are you in London? Because I know you had some time in London as well. Yeah, no, I am Edinburgh right now, talking to you from my flat in Edinburgh. And I was in London for 5 years before that, did a songwriting degree there. But I've been in Edinburgh for about 5 years, and I'm originally from much further north through the Highlands. So Edinburgh's like an in-between of not too rural. I wasn't ready to go back home into the northeast, but it's another city which has got some stuff going on. So that's where I am.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you've been releasing music since 2017, is that right? Yeah. And so tell me about your journey in music and how you came to where you are today. Describe talk a little bit about that.
I'll give the short version. I originally was not doing music at all. I did a different degree. I did French and comparative literature for 5 years. And at the end of that degree, before going into the world of work, was that I'm going to do a kind of gap year, like a working gap year, and travel. And I ended up enrolling in London on a songwriting course, thinking that's always been a hobby and maybe I can elevate it so it stays with me for life. And I loved the course, and we were writing like 3 songs a week in different genres. I got a manager and a music lawyer, and they funded my first EP when I was there. So it suddenly became a little bit more serious. And the gap year is still happening. And it's been like 10 years. And just the ups and downs. I've never really played the industry game. So I've felt like I've never put myself out there of pick me, come and sign me kind of thing. And for better or for worse, who knows? So I've always been independent and self-released my first single and got some nice coverage on like BBC Radio and the music blogs and all that traditional scene that you'd aim for in the 2010s. Learned the ropes that way, learned how to do my own PR, learned how to try and like market a single, and picked up these little tidbits along the way of how you can be your own label effectively as an independent musician.
Right. So you said that you're not playing the industry game, but you've learned how to be an independent musician, and you have had some mainstream press. So how how is it that you see your career at this point? How would you describe yourself as an artist within the independent music industry, or within the music industry anyway? Do you see yourself within the traditional music industry, or are you seeing yourself as something else?
It's definitely something I'm still navigating and grappling with. And I think I would very much relate to you of the disillusionment with the traditional industry. I'm like, who's this serving? How is it fulfilling? And actually, I just had a friend today who shared a song, and he just had the Spotify link in his bio. And I still use streaming. I have Tidal, and I do love listening to music that way. And I was like, where is it on Tidal? And he's like, oh, here you go. And he's like, I'm always promoting Spotify because I'm the slave to the machine, or however he phrased it. And that mindset that we all have, where we're just like, we know it's bad, or we're learning even more evil things about certain streaming platforms. And will we ever vote with our feet? Or like, it feels not so fulfilling anymore. And maybe as a collective, I don't know how you feel, but it feels like the scales are tipping a little bit of, we've now had a decade or two of socials and streaming and this passive consumption. And it's beginning to feel a bit empty, I think, not just as the artist, but as the listener. So my kind of where I see myself is very much community-based and grassroots. And I almost know every single one of my fans, like especially through the blockchain side. I'm about to go on a cruise to Jamaica with some of them and perform like some songs in our kind of private group. We've traveled the world together, gone to like conferences. So there's this like, intimacy and level playing field, like not the kind of pedestal dynamic of the artist and the fans. It's very much a collective. So I think that's where I'm continuing to go. And that's what really changed my mindset with music and kept me in music in the last few years, was finding the heart of it, I think, again, and not trying to look at the vanity metrics or the streaming numbers and kind of going off grid onto blockchain, onto another grid. And that's been where I've kind of found my feet recently.
So what was that journey like for you? Then you started, you had a manager, music publisher, mainstream press, songs released, and then how did you find your way into Web3? What was that journey?
I found my way in what usually happens, where I'm like, I'm quitting music. I'm never going to do this again. And then something comes up that keeps like the carrot dangling in front of you. And that was Twitter Spaces for me back through the pandemic, kind of from 2021-ish. And it was a friend who had been teaching himself about crypto and about blockchain, and introduced me to an artist called Violetta Zeroni, who was really a pioneer, is one of my best friends now, lives out in Nashville, and was so trying to onboard other musicians, like was so open, always sharing the stage. It took me a long time to have the courage to like go on stage, like on the virtual stage. And that's how I kind of traversed into that world, was performing every night, losing sleep, trying to keep up with an American time zone. And during that time, you could be performing to these digital rooms of like 12 people or 1,200 people. And that's what would happen. And it was kind of fast tracking a fan base, because you weren't curating an Instagram post and spending ages. You just turn up, talk like this. So people immediately get to know you so much quicker, because they're just hearing you chit chat and talking with other people. And then I would point my phone at my piano here and sing into my phone. And that was how I got into the blockchain. I had people start asking me to release my music on the blockchain who were in those audiences.
Fabulous. And you're, well, first of all, Violetta is a friend of the Mostro Podcast. She was episode last season. So and definitely a pioneer in the space. What was your blockchain education like? Did you, because that's another thing that a lot of artists who are interested in getting into Web3 have to go, well, I have to develop a wallet, I have to get a wallet, I have to do all this stuff. So how did you tackle How did you tackle your education or onboarding into Web3?
Definitely through hanging out in those spaces and just always listening, and everyone was in it together. So whatever you were thinking, somebody would end up asking that question. And I will give a lot of credit to the likes of Violetta and this band of musicians that we were in. There was kind of 5 of us all coming up at the same time. And so we would pass each other information. We started kind of mimicking the formula, like Violetta setting the tone of the collection and images and gamifying things. And it did become quite incestuous of just all sharing the same dev and building the same like smart contracts. But it was really effective, like sharing resources and tools. So it was, we kind of built our own education system or course without realizing. Today, I think today, rather than that huge steep learning curve of jargon and security in wallets, the way I'm refining my blockchain engagement is more like below the surface, and trying to make it less intimidating for people to approach who maybe aren't already in the Web3 space. Because it is, as you said, it's a lot to learn, and it can be intimidating with so much information and things that can go wrong, and just the different things that are in the space.
Yeah, and how did your prior audience, or you could call them the Web2 audience that knew you from your first releases with mainstream press, when you started putting out the music NFTs? Obviously, it's a new audience. How would you describe your audience from one, Web2 to Web3? What are they the same? Is that different? Or
honestly, I had such a small audience from Web2, and I'd been so inconsistent with releases and back and forth and navigating part-time jobs that it was never really a question of homogenizing it and making it one thing. It was just 2 separate worlds for me at that stage, and the blockchain side was the only thing keeping me in music. So I didn't really keep track of who was coming over, if anyone, and if anyone was, it would be to explore the music that you can click on Sound XYZ or OpenSea or wherever I had my contracts. But as I said, I know almost every single one of my collectors, and I don't recognize anyone from Web2. So that was there wasn't really a bridge, and I didn't dedicate a lot of time to educating any Web2 audience. I just kind of threw myself into this new group of people and let them kind of lead the way. So I think with my next releases, that's much more where I'm headed, is how can I bridge the gap, and how can I, things like doing a show on Tuesday. I do have people on the ground that come and see my gigs. So how could I give them little breadcrumbs to come across and take an interest in having something like a blockchain native copy of an album?
Right. So the Web3 audience, I imagine one of the perks, well, you've done like with your artifacts collection, right? Was there a tie-in with an event or live stream or something for people to join in as well online, or
for launching it, or after the collection was?
Oh yeah, either for launching it or after the collection was launched. There's some sort of concert. I mentioned there was a concert.
Yeah, in terms of a real concert, I used a lot of Twitter Spaces to kind of build up my campaign with that, and then through the artifacts collection, I have like gating where if you own that NFT, you can come and have a live stream every month. So I kind of talk face to face. I've got like a council that are through that collection that I can have as my sounding board. And then last year, for the very first time in August, I hosted my first in-person event way up in my hometown, actually, in the northeast of Scotland, in Murrayshire, which is this tiny little corner of Scotland. And I had 22 of my kind of top collectors fly in from like Hawaii and Colorado and Bavaria and Romania and all of these places. And they came to my family home and like had drinks. We went on a whiskey distillery tour, which I used to work at in the summer times. And I hosted a concert at a place called Gordon Castle, which was for everybody. It was for my collectors, and I had about 100 people from just the community, like my actual home community, kind of come in, and we hosted a talk beforehand, and I booked some other musicians that are in that space with me who kind of had a very good grasp of Web3. And so that was our aim, was to do a little bit of on the ground education for all the curious people that come to the gig. But yeah, activating like real life events around the collection was really fun and rewarding, and another excuse to all get together. But yeah, there's been concerts and things associated with the artifacts collection.
That's amazing. I find it amazing that people will come in from all over the world.
Me too.
Yeah, and so when they're like at an event like the one that you had, where they're flying in from all over, and then you have also your local community too. Mm-hmm. Are they talking to each other? What are the conversations like? Are they saying, "Well, why are you here? Why'd you come so far?" I mean, I imagine there must be a massive amount of curiosity from your local fan base to these people coming in internationally. And
I think that, I mean, that's the hardest part, is actually communicating, like, what's the difference and why would someone be part of this versus this version? But when you do the thing, rather than explaining it, you just do the thing. I think that became so much clearer. Everyone understands the music side and can experience that moment together. And clearly the only reason I was able to host that concert and host that weekend was because of the direct investment, or whatever you want to call it, purchase or support from the artifacts community. So I think people could see the full circle and understand even Joe Public kind of gets that the music industry is a pretty hard place for musicians. So there's an understanding there. And having my own PR team of those 20 so people, just to have the casual conversations, like it's not a pitch, it's just talking person to person. I think that did pique curiosity and people wanting to how can we be part of a weekend going to a whiskey distillery tour and welcome? Yeah. So that was a great moment. I think it's a really good reminder that it is really effective to bring stuff out of the digital space and have the thing happen, so that it's just less complicated. It's not explaining tech or jargon. It's just existing in the art, or bringing people together, or having that community moment. So yeah, that was definitely an effective bridge.
Awesome. I mean, I know I'm digging into this. Why did any of your collectors, they say why that's important to them, for them to be there? Why they're collecting music NFTs? Why they're supporting independent artists like you in this way?
Yeah, that's a good one that they did. And I'm trying to think. I think it is about connection. It's about kind of lifting the veil a little bit on the artist. And it's things I've never understood before and have kind of discounted until I think of what I'm like when I'm a fan of something, and how much it would mean to me if I got behind the scenes, or a little bit closer to like the tangibility of the music or the art, or just understanding. So I think what I've done, and what a lot of us were doing, is that you're bringing the collector or the community member on that journey with you. Like, they're getting to hear about your decisions, they're getting to hear demos of your songs, they're getting, because of their support, they're getting to be part of those one-off, like, unique experiences that is not typical of any artist. I don't think that who hosts their fans for a weekend. Like, I don't think, no matter what tier or mainstream level you're on, like, that's quite a unique thing. And to be able to get in that headspace and realize, like, it can be really intimate, and you don't need huge volumes of people to have the fulfillment and the kind of for it to work, basically. Mm-hmm. So I think it is about connection as to why they made the effort. And by that point, it'd been a couple of years that they've been on the the music journey with me and supporting different songs that I'd put out, and really know me very well. Like, we know each other very well. So it's, yeah, a local in Scotland who was also going to show you a good time. And there's lots of factors, I think, of why they made the effort.
Beautiful. Well, that's amazing. And it's interesting that you say you know each of them well, more so than your local community fans.
Yeah, for sure.
That relationship has been built up. That's also quite special too. You know, that's in the traditional music industry, we call that the super fans, right? But yeah, that's quite amazing. What do you see going forward? Like, if you were to describe what the ideal music industry, your vision of what the ideal music industry would be from the experiences that you've been having now on this journey, do you have a vision of what you'd like to see?
That's a tough one, because there's always going to be issues. Like, you give the utopia version, it's like, well, what have you lost on that? But the transparency aspect, I think, is really important, and that's what was given to me through blockchain. It's like, as I said, I know everyone that's collecting from me just because of the way, like, the culture that we've established in that community. I have no clue who's listening on Spotify. I don't know if that one listener, like, the songs mean so much to them, or if it's all passive listeners. There's no sense of a conversation with streaming, and even socials that is gatekept by the platform that you're on, of, we're going to show this to 10 of your 1,000 followers, and not share with the audience that have chosen to be with you. So I think the kind of gatekeeping from platforms when you're an artist or a founder or creator is really problematic, and definitely something I would want to change, and something I try and address in my own, like, funnel of come over to my Patreon, come over to my mailing list. Like, that's such an old school, still really relevant thing of, like, you own that email, and whether everything burns down, like, you can still send that email, like, hello, I exist, this is what's happening, how are you doing? So yeah, that's what I would encourage all musicians to be aware of, is, like, don't build, like, an empty audience. Build something that always comes back to you and isn't shouting about a platform that could be taken away, however useful it can be. Like, I love discovering music on streaming, and that's where my dilemma stands. Is I've recently listened to a couple of albums on Tidal that was like, oh, there's no way I would have taken a random risk and bought these albums without that. So I would love people to have that, but it's the courage of your convictions, and if you're willing to take the risk and see how you can navigate those tools and, like, things like streaming platforms. So I'm still figuring out what my steps are there.
Yeah, I think it's my perspective, for what it's worth, I think it's going to be a slow journey of adoption of these new platforms that are coming out, whether it's Web3 and that sort of thing, and that these streaming platforms will continue to exist because the major labels have the majority of their catalogs on them, and it is still a platform for, you could say, marketing your music, but definitely not a financial solution, definitely not a way of real, true fan support in a more intimate and direct way, and financial support also from purchasing NFTs and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, hopefully everything can peacefully coexist and blossom on in their own ways. Do you have any? We talked about Violetta. Do you have any other Web3 artists or indie artists working in Web3 that you'd like to give a shout out to, that you're watching what they're doing, or that you've collaborated with? I mean, I've done a little bit of research, so I'm aware that you have done some collaborations, but what can you talk about?
There's so many. Definitely, like, Violetta is full steam ahead and full of talking about conviction. That girl has got conviction. with blockchain. So that's definitely someone to watch and learn from. There's like multiple people. There's an artist called Nessie the Rilla who I've collaborated with, who is got really I think innovative projects and very community based. He's got a project called Open Minds, which he gives a lot back to the community. There's so many like nice little rewards and perks and just that access to him. There's an artist called Eli who I love working with, and we've actually done a hip hop album together, which we've paused and we're figuring out where we want to go with it, but that will definitely have a blockchain aspect or maybe completely blockchain, like native release. And yeah, Tommy Danvers is this huge producer and great crossover between someone who's so industry based but is such a champion of the blockchain space and has a company called Token Tracks. There's a list of all sorts that I could keep throwing at you. But yeah, there's a lot of people doing like still active in the space despite what the market does, to put it in those terms. It's a lot more, there's a lot more depth to it than numbers that you might see on a screen.
Yeah. And let's talk about your plans now, what you've got coming up for the next few months and into the future. What's on the agenda for you? What have you got going?
So a few different things, but my main thing at the moment is an album that I recorded in Tennessee in the springtime, which was an absolute bucket list. Like to be completely frank, I approach every single year of, we'll see where this goes and if I can sustain this for another year. And so there was certain things I was like, well, I want to take this off my list and go with something I'm really proud of. And so that was really special and something that I am very proud of. And I'm going to be releasing an 11-track album called I Want to Be the Anchor heading into October. And that is, again, something I've been doing on my own, working with AI tools, building a website to have like a digital release and a blockchain release and rewarding my artifacts collectors with like exclusive test pressings and all of this kind of world building that I'm doing. So it's going to have its own little world. And other than not being able to be too specific, so I'm still working out my plan, but within the next few weeks, I'm going to have music out and the album will be on its way into the autumn. And yeah, you can find all of it on my website, emmamiller.xyz, in a couple of weeks. But that's going to be me bridging those two worlds of blockchain and normies Web2, hopefully seamlessly, and hopefully you don't need to know anything about anything. You can be Web3 native and take ownership and understand the wallet aspect, or you can go in blind and just be interested to collect the special edition that gives you the bonus content. And I made lots of videos of the studio experience out in Tennessee, which was, yeah, I find myself like watching the footage and like reliving it all. So I'm excited to give that to collectors and just share a lot of the behind the scenes in the album that way. And we'll see if I can build another live. I would love to take the band that did that with me and have a live experience. So it's all coming together, but that's what is consuming me for the next few months.
That is so exciting. I'm really looking forward to hearing it, experiencing it, supporting you. So yeah, and to everyone else also who's listening to this, please do support Emma it's emmamiller.xyz. Right?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. I want to thank you for joining me for this conversation. I want to know, is there any final thoughts or pieces of advice that you might have for any artists out there that are listening that are, stuck and just frustrated and stuck? What would you have to say to them?
I think there's so many more routes to go with your art than you might believe. and to maybe like re-educate your soul and your mindset on this formula that we've been taught that kind of feeds into the industry funnel and gives back very, very little. So I'd encourage you to explore things that resonate with you and don't like think outside the box. And if you take any inspiration from myself or any of the artists I've mentioned for the kind of unique approaches they've used, and just take it and repackage it and do your own thing with it. But I think just don't be scared to be subversive and nurture people one by one. And I think that's if you're on social media and your video gets 10 views or whatever, those are 10 people, 10 little engagements you could have, rather than chasing the 1,000 or the 100,000 that you don't know and you don't understand. You might never support your music. So I think just that mindset shift would be my passing advice for newbies or people that are a bit discontent and wanting to shake things up, is go for it and try something new.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mostro Podcast, and a huge thanks to Emma Miller for sharing her journey with us. You can discover Emma's music on her socials and at emmamiller.xyz. Subscribe to the Mostro Podcast, and if you're an artist or music fan curious about the future of independent music, join us at mostro.xyz. Until next time, tune in and turn up for innovation.